Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now the middle of August of 2022, and not only are we getting closer and closer to the release of Star Wars Andor, but we also have a handful of other TV shows on the horizon, such as Tales of the Jedi, Bad Batch 2, Mando 3, as well as the Ahsoka Tano series next year. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing that a lot of Star Wars fans have really been investing themselves with is, of course, what Favreau and Filoni are currently developing with all of these new Star Wars shows that will be announced at D23 and Disney Plus Day. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the thing about Favreau and Filoni right now is that they will be resurrecting a lot of Star Wars legends in the mix, as well as really making a lot of unauthorized canon material to actually make its way into Disney's Star Wars. You guys may recall that back when Legends was a big deal, George Lucas was approving what to be used and what not to be used in books and comics. And a lot of that unapproved material is going to make its way into the official canon for Disney as well. So we're also going to be getting very original stuff that we have never seen before. Now, moving past all of this, what's even all the more exciting has a lot to do with what Favreau has planned with the sequel trilogy movies when it comes to the lore and the canon, and exactly what his plans are in order to change many different aspects of episodes 8 and 9 specifically. Now, on top of all of this, we already know that everything related to Jon Favreau is about being an innovator. He wants to make sure that he's going to be doing things that are going to be very surprising to the fans, that are really going to bring things back on track for the franchise, and that's exactly why he's trying to make the Mandoverse better fit with the sequel trilogy by making a lot of different retcons. Now, moving past all of this, with both Disney and Lucasfilm currently focused on their new Star Wars universe, creators Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are beginning to develop new shows that will be announced at this year's D23 and Disney Plus Day. One of the big plans that Favreau currently has is to retcon many elements of the sequel trilogy movies when it comes to stories related to Luke Skywalker and others. Now, it's described that since Favreau got a big promotion over at Lucasfilm, he has been in charge with many of the upcoming projects. Recently, Favreau established a couple major retcons to take place in the sequel trilogy lore for the Star Wars franchise that will be made canon by next year. One of which is set to completely reset the backstory of what really happened at Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple. Currently, one of Favreau's big plans is to bring in Mara Jade, portrayed by Karen Gillan, into the Star Wars universe, starting with The Mandalorian Season 4, and eventually other projects as well. However, Jon Favreau is about to make it canon that Kylo Ren years later was the one responsible for Mara Jade's death, just as Jason Solo was in Star Wars Legends when he poisoned her. Favreau wants to create, of course, an actual reason as to why Luke Skywalker lost his way, instead of what happened in the actual Last Jedi film. Favreau also wants to create his own spin on the Legends story and the fate of Mara Jade in the Star Wars universe to make it canon, and it's finding ways to adjust the canon to make it fit with the films as they exist. Favreau decided to erase the Last Jedi canon of what happened at Luke's temple since he never really enjoyed Episode 8 and especially that scene, and how it was Rian Johnson's way of justifying why Luke Skywalker turned away from the Jedi. It's one of the main reasons why Favreau joined Lucasfilm to take care of Star Wars. Another retcon that Favreau plans to use is to erase some of the sequel trilogy lore that includes that Rey's mother is actually a part of the KENOBI bloodline. Favreau is already writing a storyline between two choices that either A, Kenobi had a child with someone, or B, that Kenobi's brother eventually had a child that would actually serve as Rey's mother in the official Star Wars canon. Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the whole Rey Kenobi situation and how that is moving forward. It's going to be made canon by next year. You're going to hear a lot more about that. But everything related to the whole Last Jedi and Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple scene getting completely changed when it comes to canon, and exactly why he fell to the dark side is pretty drastic. Now, some of you out there may be like, you don't want Mara Jade to die, you think that's a bad move on his part. Honestly, they did it in Legends anyway, so it doesn't really make that all much of a difference. So, it actually is rather poetic because both Jason Solo and Ben Solo eventually, destroy Mara Jade in their story. So that's what Favreau's trying to work through. He is basically making the downfall of Luke's Jedi Temple, where Mara Jade was basically at that point in time when it was getting burned down to the ground. And we're going to actually learn more about that as well once The Mandalorian Season 4 comes into the equation, and how they're going to get ready to establish Mara Jade in the canon, and then eventually in comics and books and all these other different, ways of retelling the lore and other live-action TV shows, you name it. So, past all of this, alright, now this is currently being worked on in order to make Rey both a Palpatine and a Kenobi. Another major retcon coming our way in 2023 involves some new changes to Luke Skywalker's death at the end of The Last Jedi. It's noted that the death of Luke is going to be changed as far as exactly what happens with the lore. Currently, it's unclear what Favreau is going to do with changing Luke Skywalker's fate. However, one plan that Favreau does have in the Rise of Skywalker sequel series that is still currently in the works, that is going to be an animated Star Wars show slated for 2025, is set to give Luke a type of power that allows him to come back to life, temporarily speaking. An original idea that George was going to use in Return of the Jedi for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, many other changes are also planned for the sequels, and that Favreau is going to be placing them into future shows to make them canon, some of which involves the Ahsoka Tano TV show in 2023 as well. This is something that he has been waiting for to do in a while now. Now, let me just pause here, because before we get on to the next thing, Favreau and Filoni want to make sure about a couple of things here, is that they themselves even said this about The Mandalorian, that they don't want to change things too much when it comes to the sequel trilogy lore. Now, all these different changes that they're about to make most likely has a lot to do with the world between worlds, because they are going to be focusing on that, not just in Star Wars Ahsoka, but also other Star Wars TV shows as well, that's going to have a lot of, different impacts on the sequel trilogy lore. So, at the end of the day, we already know that Favreau has a lot of issues with The Last Jedi. He himself even pointed this out a couple of years ago. He himself even said that, of course, there's a lot of flaws in the film, that he would have done things so much differently with the character of Luke in that film. And at the end of the day, it's very obvious that, Rian Johnson just did not do the right thing with the middle film of the trilogy. Either, we could have gotten something truly incredible if they just put more time and effort into it all, and we wouldn't really have to be dealing with fixing or, tweaking and doing all these different repairs to the franchise by Favreau. Some fans out there are going to look at this as very unnecessary and a waste of time, and I get that. I understand how people are going to think about that with Favreau, but let's look at the facts here. Favreau is a passionate fan. He is a pure fan. He just loves Star Wars. This is not just like a job for him over in the film industry. He is actually loving this, and that's why he's working around the clock, really trying to bring Star Wars back to the vision of George Lucas. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.